conversation about sort of what's been working and not working in the group for anything, for the content, for support and format around, how everyone's supporting each other, how they feel connected, what are some of the practices that they have, that people have been practicing and are continuing to practice, and how's that working? If they've started certain practices and stopped them, why was that? So we just had a little bit of an inquiry. There's a small group on last week. So I will be posting a poll in the Facebook group. And also I'll be using this poll as a way to engage some of the other folks who prefer not to join live in the live environment, but rather they view the videos. We have about 70 people a week that view the videos, and I don't know if they're doing the practices or not, so I'd like to find out. So I'm going to encourage, for those of you watching this video after it's recorded later this week, please watch for that poll as well. We'd like to hear from you and get some more feedback, and also encourage you to join the Sunday workshops as well, if you can. I know some people are in time zones where it just doesn't work out, and that's understandable, and that's fine as well. So anyway, I just wanted to announce that. And next month, so that would be next Sunday, Anurag is going to kick off a teaching that will continue in the dialogue for a month around creating versus consuming. So the whole notion with this is that, especially in the West, we live in a consumer-based mindset, a consumer-based society, and there are challenges with at the being level, okay, with what it means as a human being to be a creator versus a consumer. And we want to encourage everybody in the community and in the group to not just be a consumer of their own life, a consumer of the things that are going on around them, but to be very intentional with how we are proactively engaging in an active creation of our own life from intention, aligned with our calling. And so in the month of May, we're going to be looking at all of the different ways that we get sucked into being consumers and the impact that that has on who we're being in the world, where we're coming from, everything from our happiness, our success, can all be linked back to whether or not we are predominantly consuming life or actively creating life. And so Anurag will be doing a initial teaching around that distinction next week to kick off the month. And we'll have, as usual, a lot of new practices and stuff around how to move or nudge ourselves from a place of consumption to a place of creation. So you can be looking out for that as well. And reason I was testing this mic as well is we're going to start doing some more video posts in the month of May as well. Regular sort of intermittent weekly video posts that maybe touch on certain distinctions that we might be dealing with, and going, a little deeper into them, little short ones, 3-minute ones, 5-minute ones. So we're testing some of the format and seeing if this is helpful to people. So I'm just getting, some equipment and stuff like that set up to be able to do that and travel at the same time. So I don't have to be stuck in like a fixed studio. So this morning we have our special guest for the month. We're wrapping up the conversation we've been in for 2 months. And when I say wrapping up, I use it very loosely because, as you know, inside of the being experiment and the work that we're doing in 2019, we're never everything should be not only being built on, everything isn't just built on what we've talked about previous, but is actually all integrated. I think of it more as a circle, an interwoven circle or a Venn diagram of principles and distinctions that together constitute the ingredients of what it means to be human and successfully living a happy, productive, creative, empowered human life. You know, a couple of weeks ago, James was really talking about, when he was talking about reclaiming our attention. And it's often very difficult in our current modern society to actually be attentive to not only the things around us, but you know, our own inner life, what's going on inside of us and who we are being and how we're showing up in that context. And so when I say wrapping up, I want everyone to understand that our being isn't sort of this linear, blocky, chunky, you know, it's very much in flow. It's very circuitous. So when I say wrapping up architecture and environment, which is what we've been doing for the last 2 months, our architecture and environment, even though we're going to start talking about creating versus consuming, our architecture and environment is very much at work with whether or not we are a creator or a consumer. It's very much at work with our experience of life. And so as we wrap up formally the teaching around architecture and environment, I think everyone's sort of getting the general idea of it and the distinctions. It doesn't mean the work stops. It doesn't mean implementing the practices stops. And it doesn't mean we're not going to be weaving in the conversation of architecture and environment into creating or consuming. Same with emotional sobriety, same with intention, which we did the months previous to that. But today we have our special guest, Dr. Andrea Renee, and she's a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And she's going to be talking about, inside of the conversation of being, the 5-element architecture of being human, and how we as human beings are actually so powerful that we can be our own medicine, you know, and maintain our own health and vitality and aliveness. You know, that doesn't mean, and I'm sure she'll touch on this, I haven't heard her talk yet on this, but it doesn't mean that things like, you know, nutrition and exercise and things don't have their place. They very much have their place. But remember how we always teach in this workshop that it's where you're coming from that matters most. So if you're coming from a place where you are aware that we as human beings are our own medicine, have the power to be that, have the power to impact our health and our happiness and these sorts of things, then we're living a much more aligned and empowered life from that place versus being a victim to things that are just happening to us, right? And that's a perception. Remember, we've taught on and on that perception is reality. Whatever we perceive is what's real, that there is no real objective reality that we as human beings can agree on, because we actively are creating our reality, something Anurag will probably talk about next month in the creating versus consuming. We are either consuming other people's realities or we're creating our own. In the context of our health and our wellness and our well-being, we are either creating from a place of who we're being and where we're coming from. We're either creating a reality of health and empowerment, or we're consuming the stories of those around us telling us we're not healthy or we're not empowered or we're not any of these things. So creating versus consuming, which is next month's sort of formal topic, if you like, as a structure, weaves in intention and emotional sobriety and architecture and environment, and what Dr. Andrea Renee is going to be talking about today in terms of our physical body and our beingness. So I want you to listen today as she speaks from that place of you as a creator versus a consumer of your own well-being, your own health, your own physical body. She's going to be talking inside of the architecture and environment conversation, because our physical body is an architecture, and it is an environment in which we as a conscious being exist in the way we experience life. It's a very important one. How many of us have struggled with disease or being unhealthy, or, you know, just being tired and fatigued, or maybe depression? I mean, there's all kinds of things that the experience of being human has to deal with from a physical body standpoint. And that architecture and that environment in which our bodies exist has a fundamental role in how productive we are in our lives, how happy we are in our lives, how, you know, what our experience of our own human beingness is. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Andrea Renee and let her enlighten us with how powerful we really are and how we as human beings have the ability to control our experience in our physical body and what that looks like. And I think it'll be very enlightening for all of us who've suffered from different physical and health and wellness maladies. So Dr. Renee, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I am really honored and feeling very privileged to be here to share this time with you. So thanks for joining me in this moment where we can explore. I love this quote from Epictetus I put on my PowerPoint presentation first page. Because it's our point of view, it's our opinion, it's our judgment of our life experience and circumstances that creates all of our mental emotional suffering. And our mental emotional suffering leads to our physical body experiencing suffering as well. So I understand that you have all made an intention by joining this group to change certain aspects of your life in 2019. And it is my resolute intention in all of the work that I do to empower you to be able to do just that. So to see your life in a new light, to see yourself, to see reality, to see the world at large from a different point of view that serves you better than what you already have. So that's the point of today. That's what enables us to change our perspective, that changes our emotions, that changes our behavior. It starts first with how we're thinking and judging our reality. So let's get started, yes? So I personally am so excited to bring these tools to you today of 5-element theory from traditional Chinese medicine, and also a mindful practice that we'll do later on. And before I go into this slide, I just want to make a note that in order to participate in the class exercise later on, I need you to be in a quiet place where you're not going to be interrupted while we're doing this talk. And that way you can get the full benefit of me leading you through the exercise. And so also that you'll be comfortable wherever you're sitting as well. So I just want to mention that to make sure you can participate fully, that you'll be uninterrupted. So what I'm bringing you today is my gems. These are the gems that I have collected from my 12 years of study, research of traditional Chinese medicine, Vedic science from Ayurveda, and East-West medical research, and my practice working with over 3,000 people, helping myself and who I work with to reprogram these neural pathways. It's another way to use a term to describe what our MO is, our modus operandi, our subconscious programming that's driving us. So I'll go into it a little later on, but we develop our initial neural pathways between the ages of 8 and 15, and then they drive us from our subconscious without us being aware necessarily of what our program is. So as we become conscious and become aware and start to be present and notice what our patterns are, notice what our thought patterns, our neural pathways are, notice our behaviors and what's behind them, then we can start to reprogram them, set ourselves free, make permanent change, transform ourselves into our highest potential. So I have had many life challenges regarding my health and wellness. I was hit by a taxi cab going 40 miles an hour at 23rd and Madison in New York City in 1994. So I have a certain amount of orthopedic trauma and pain, and then from that PTSD from the accident. Also, I lived through September 11th in New York City as well. And also domestic abuse as well. Sometimes we're in relationships with people that are struggling to overcome addictions and other challenges, and they could relapse. And then the digestive issues of celiac and MTHFR are about not being able to absorb key nutrients in order for our nervous system and our gut to make neurotransmitters like serotonin, and our nervous system to have the minerals like magnesium or B vitamins in order to function properly. So it can make me a very stressed out person until I found the answers of putting these puzzle pieces together of, again, traditional Chinese medicine, Vedic science, and East-West medicine. So the puzzle pieces of nutrition, part of what we need to see is what our bag is. So what are the thoughts and ideas of our neural pathways that are driving our emotions to drive our behaviors, our habits that we're in, and how is our physical body really contributing to that? And this is why I'm so passionate about mind-body medicine. In traditional Chinese medicine and Vedic science, we don't distinguish between the mind and the body. The mind is not only our thoughts, but it's also our emotions, and then our physical body are all intertwined. They're like the three legs of a stool. If any one of those legs is out of balance, is broken, cannot support the other two legs, then we will be out of balance. Life will be harder to live for us. It'll be harder for us to live into our highest potential. So with that landscape, I have come to share with you my gems today of 5-element theory from traditional Chinese medicine, live from the I Ching Book of Changes, right here with you today on this Sunday. So why do we want to bother learning 5-element consciousness today? What's the point, right? Because working with natural law gets us what we want, the inner peace, the optimal health, the peak performance, the fulfillment that we want out of life. If you make the changes that you want to make, that you committed to making, the point of making the changes is to get to this place, right? The details are kind of irrelevant in the sense that we all are looking for this inner peace. We are all looking for this optimal health, this peak performance, this fulfillment in life, to live into our highest potential. That's what we all want. And so when you build your minutes a day mastery toolbox, then you know how to turn your obstacles into opportunities to grow. You know how to show up for yourself. And that way you're living beyond any mental, emotional, physical pain that arises. You step into this enduring, courageous confidence and resiliency. You're not intimidated by a new challenge that comes. You know when the going gets tough, you'll be able to keep up because you own your life experience. You're in the driver's seat of your life experience, in the driver's seat of your happiness, wellness, and well-being. So that's the point. So I'm going to show you a tool later on in the in-class exercise that's related to the quiz that you are given before the class to give you an experience of that. So what are we doing in this class? We're learning how to change our behavior and make it stick long-term by making new neural pathways. We're going to reset our program. So we're raising our consciousness. We're becoming empowered creators of our life experience. And this is a two-step process, 2 steps. And this next 6 weeks of doing step 2 are the most crucial because it takes 6 to 8 weeks to break our current neural pathway patterns and program a new one and make it strong enough to stick. So it's very important when you learn a new tool to dig in and use it consistently for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then you can start to arrive in the full benefit of it, of letting go of the thought that creates the emotion that drives the behavior that's no longer serving you, that you don't want. So now we are exploring the architecture of the human experience. So we first have to be clear, present, conscious, and aware that we are not living in any kind of chaos. We are living in patterns. This is natural law. And so when we can recognize our current pattern, identifying our current mind-body pattern, our current neural pathways, the thoughts that trigger our emotions, the emotions that drive our behavior, that's the key to life. So to learn how to take a moment to confront self-limiting thoughts, ideas, and beliefs in a productive way. So instead of being stuck in this emotionally reactive state, repeating these same patterns of behaviors, we can use a mindful practice like we will do soon to confront the emotion, the emotional reactivity, and then dig deeper into the thoughts that are driving that reaction and behavior. We can regain consciousness, become present. And once we are conscious and awake, we can change our state. We can open ourselves up to being ready to receive new concepts, perspectives, and beliefs on the natural law of reality, and how we can build a relationship, a positive relationship with natural law and work with it. To understand ourselves empowers us to work with ourselves in a team relationship. So we are doing this today by exploring this TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, 5-element paradigm, and doing the upcoming state changing exercise. So the upcoming change your state exercise is a mindful practice. A mindful practice allows us to see our current neural pathway pattern clearly through this 5-element lens, and then empower us to reprogram it. This is where our freedom lies, in the truth that sets us free. And most importantly, we can use mindful practices on a daily basis, moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, to break free of our current self-limiting comfort zone of limiting thoughts, emotions, and behavior patterns that are not serving us. We can consciously change our state from being stuck in states that do not serve us. We can get comfortable, even enjoy confronting, look forward to confronting and moving through being uncomfortable with our daily, hourly, even challenges and our natural human resistance to change. I'll stop there for a moment just to make this point and allow you to take notes on it, because this is a real game changer. We need to make peace with the human experience. We need to stop judging it and ourselves. We need to stop having unrealistic expectations. Our default pilot, our body and our mind, our brain, want to conserve our energy. It's a survival instinct. And so that makes us naturally go to no first, no to change, no to challenge. So whenever you start to open yourself up to new ideas, new habits, a new way of being, you will have, especially the first 6 to 8 weeks, quite a lot of resistance to that change. So it's the same in our physical body. Can be easier for us to understand when we exercise. We don't have the energy, we don't feel like it, we're not looking forward to the new exercise program. It takes our will, the payoff of where we want to be, knowing the value of it. Sometimes it takes pain as motivation. It's pleasure and pain that motivates us to stick with the new habit until it becomes second nature, until it becomes easier to confront the resistance to change, to confront being uncomfortable and keep going anyway. So it's natural to resist change. We don't have to allow it to shut us down. That's the point. It's part of this experience. It's part of life. So the key is learning how to cope with the change and overcome it in a way that is easier in a way that is productive. And so then we can adopt new thinking, feeling, and behavior patterns that are more beneficial in our daily lives. On the other side of that first 6 to 8 weeks, the benefits of continuing these practices and looking at life in this new way is compounded. The results become bigger and more pronounced, more liberating. And that's the beauty, is the magic is in the repetition. That's where the real power comes. So we can use mindful practice tools regularly, daily, as needed to confront any negative patterns we notice within ourselves, change our state at will as needed, be in complete control of our life experience, and create new neural pathways that serve us better. That is what we can actually do. It's very exciting. So this mindful practice allows us, when we feel overwhelming emotion, when we feel physical pain, to stop, to notice, to become conscious. And then use this mindful practice to stop that current pattern of thinking and feeling and physical pain and behaving that doesn't serve us. When we keep interrupting the pattern of an old neural pathway, we're breaking it apart. And as we keep interrupting it, it becomes weaker and weaker. And then as we keep implanting the new thought, emotion, and the new neural pathway, it becomes stronger. And then we start living in a new, better state. Immediately from using the mindful practice, we shift. And then once we've arrived in this better state, we can be consciously more easily able to think new thoughts, to be receptive, to be more creative, to see new solutions to problems, to be plugged into and bring back to our reality. When we stop, we plug into the unified field, the universal consciousness, the force within us, the limitless power that is our animating force of life. When we stop and plug into that, when we come back, we bring a piece of it with us. More creativity, more mental focus and openness, more capability to start feeling new emotions, experience better physical health, and start living new behaviors. So that's the purpose of the mindful practice: to stop, to wake up, to change your state, change your behavior. So this is the tool we're going to use in this class. This is what I want you to make sure you won't be interrupted in practicing, so I want you to have the full benefit. This is a guided imagery meditation with breath work. It takes this little bit of time. So now that you're in a quiet place and you won't be interrupted for the next 5 minutes, I want you to just go through your head and review the quiz that you had answered for yourself in the pre-class quiz of what is going on inside of your body, your mind, any areas that you are wanting to change. And now I'd like you to go ahead and close your eyes so that we can begin. So make sure that you're comfortable sitting in your chair. Your feet are flat on the ground. You can put your arms at your sides, letting your hands be at your sides. And we're going to take 3 big, deep breaths, complete breaths. And we're going to exhale with a sigh or a sound. So now, please breathe together. Oh, good. Someone else is joining. I'll wait for a moment. So sitting comfortably, feet on the floor, arms at your sides. Close your eyes. Check in with your body, noticing any areas of discomfort, any distracting thoughts, anything that's going on for you. Just notice that it's there. And now, take a deep breath down into your abdomen, filling up your abdomen, your belly, your chest, all the way up to your shoulders. And then exhale with a sound or a sigh out of your mouth. And now inhale again through your nose into your abdomen, your belly, your chest, up into your shoulders. And exhale it out with a sigh or a sound. And now the last one, biggest breath ever, inhaling through your nose into your abdomen, your stomach, your chest, your shoulders, and exhaling with a sigh or a sound. And now I invite you to imagine that your fingertips and toe tips are water faucets. They are open. And with every exhale, anything you no longer need drains out of your fingertips and toe tips. It's easy, it's effortless with each exhale. Anything you no longer need just flows right out of your fingertips and toe tips, through the floor, through the rock and the dirt of the earth, all the way into the heart center of the earth, that beautiful orange yellow fireball, lava core in the center of the earth. You give back anything you no longer need. It's no judgment, just extra energy. You let it flow out of your fingertips and toe tips with each exhale, down through the rock and the dirt of the earth, into the lava core of the earth. It's transmuted there. You're giving that extra energy back to the earth, and it will give life to all things. We're in a relationship and it's an exchange, and we're simply returning that energy back to the earth. So with each exhale, you become softer, melting into the chair, more and more like water. With anything that comes up, distractions, thoughts, to-dos, emotions, physical body tension, tightness, anything you no longer need just falls out, drains out of your fingertips and toe tips into the center of the earth. And now with all of this space and ease you've created within you by letting go, I invite you to imagine that you're inhaling through the top of your head a beautiful, crystalline, pure white light, starlight. Inhaling in to your head, through your face, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, through your elbows, wrists, and hands, flowing out of your fingertips, down through your head, face, neck, chest, stomach, and abdomen, down through your hips, legs, knees, ankles, and feet, pouring out of your toes. Starlight, pure crystalline white light, flowing with each inhale through the top of your head, through your face, neck, shoulders, arms, chest, stomach, abdomen, hips, legs, knees, ankles, and feet. This white light is everything you need, everything you want. All the energy, all the vitality, all the clarity, all the power, all the confidence, all the ease, all the intelligence, all the consciousness, all possibility, all freedom. You breathe it in through your entire being. It flows through you. You are this light. You are this pure crystalline white light. You are everything you need, and you can relax and breathe it in and enjoy it. And now, when you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and toes. Start to come back into being conscious of sitting in your chair. slowly open your eyes. When you open your eyes, look around the room and notice if you feel your vision is clearer, if colors seem a little brighter. Look at objects in the room. And now check in with your body. Do a body scan from the top of your head down through your feet. Areas of tension that you had before we did the exercise, notice what's changed for you. Notice if you feel more energy, more mental focus. Notice if you feel more relaxed and present. Just notice how you are now. So this is a tool that you can use whenever you like. Just set a 5-minute timer on your phone. You can change your state at will as needed to come to this place of more energy, less pain, more focus that allows you to be more capable and more open. So now from this place, this better, more conscious present place, we're going to go into the meat of this talk today. So usually we are all stuck in a fight or flight stress response. We are overstimulated in our society. It's actually a diagnosis called information overload syndrome. So the purpose of this mind-body practice, the purpose of this mindful practice is to get out of this fight or flight stress response. So now we're no longer emotionally reactive, we're no longer delusional, we're no longer shut down, irrational, or closed off to reality and new ideas. That's what fight or flight stress response does. Takes our consciousness to the back of our head, to our amygdala, to our reactive brain, away from our forebrain, the seat of consciousness. So now we're in our forebrain. Our attention is now in the conscious forebrain prefrontal cortex rather than trapped in the emotionally reactive, irritable amygdala. We're less tense physically and mentally. We have more blood circulation when we're less tense, which means we have more oxygen through our whole body, increasing our energy. And most importantly, I feel our cognitive function. More blood and oxygen to the brain. And all of this is reducing our mental, emotional, and physical pain levels. Usually for me, when I practice these exercises, since I live in a natural state of about a pain level 7, feels really good to get down to a 1 to 3 in a short amount of time. Works for me. So we're in a better, more enhanced state of consciousness now in just 5 minutes with a mindful practice. And we can start living in a state of peak performance now. We're more creative, we're more capable of learning and doing more and having more pleasure and fulfillment doing it. So we not just can do, but we can enjoy it more. Double win. So that's what's changed from this mindful practice of meditation. We're ready to think and learn. So this 5-element paradigm is an 8,000-year-old paradigm of traditional Chinese medicine from the I Ching, the Book of Changes, the Chinese medicine Bible, so to speak, that can help you understand the natural law of the unified field of consciousness. That's what Vedic science calls it, and that's what Maharishi calls it. This unified field of consciousness. I'm a Star Wars fan. It's the Force that's in us in all things. So we can understand the Force and how it operates in us and the entire world reality we're living in. That's the point of 5-element architecture. It's the order of the universe. There are patterns here we can understand, and we can use that knowledge and understanding to our advantage to navigate successfully through these patterns. So when we know our human mind-body architecture, we become aware that an element of ourselves is out of balance, like the aspects you want to change. You've noticed that an aspect of yourself is out of balance. You can get stuck in it. It doesn't feel good. And we're alerted to that by emotions and activities, physiological symptoms. We can stop and notice and interpret them. So with this mindful practice, like we just did, we get unstuck and back in our peak performance. So here are some of the TCM paradigm associations that define the 5-element architecture of being human. We want to identify what our nature is. We will notice that we have certain elements that are more dominant, certain attitudes, emotions, certain symptoms in our body. That is our default pilot, so to speak. So we want to learn to wake up to our nature, know our true nature, and learn how to ID and shift our state. So, wood element is associated with the spring season. So in your pre-class quiz, you said which seasons of the year you liked and what emotions are dominant for you. This is a first window in to this paradigm. Your emotional state and the seasons of the year that you like. So spring wood is a motivated person. It's about taking action. It's the doing of life. Fire is associated with summer. The positive emotion of it is joy, passion, your intuition. The challenging emotion of it is anxiety. Going back to wood for a moment, motivation is a positive aspect, but irritability, impatience, and anger is a challenging aspect. When we're stuck in a wood, we're pissed off, not enjoying ourselves. When we're stuck in fire, we are anxious. In earth, which is late summer, early fall, you could say August to October-ish. This is about productive thinking and planning, processing your life events in a productive and positive way, versus, again, the challenging side of it when we're stuck, overthinking and worry. So this is the part you're keying into with the mindful practice, being the witness of how you transit through all these 5 elements and noticing and ideally processing and coping with that in a productive way. And now metal is associated with fall, using beneficial wisdom, having a empowering perspective, right, is liberating. There's freedom in that, there's power in that. Versus if you're stuck in grief, criticism, bitterness, resentment, and judgment that is not productive, that's not serving you. And this is what I touched on earlier. We are sponges in our youth, from 8 to 15 years old. Research has shown that is when we adopt our core neural net, our core neural pathways, our core beliefs and attitudes perspective on reality. We pick it up from our exposure to families, schools, society. It's an indoctrination that we get from Western society, the consumerism that Chad mentioned earlier. It's all around us and we soak it in, and it can be running us in driving us into directions that don't really add to the fulfillment or quality of life that we want. So it's very key. When we reprogram our neural pathways, we're dealing with this element. And now water, the last one of the 5, associated with winter, your will, your courage is the positive aspect. The challenging one is fear. So it can take some effort to come back to our state of full power, personal power, full integrity, faith, our truth consciousness. The resistance of change, the fear of change, we have to walk through that. So when you note what element, season, and emotions are dominant in you, you can start to see yourself in this light and start to learn how to control an element that you're stuck in, an element that is out of control, that's dominant. So metal controls wood. Mind-body practices like the guided imagery with breath work and physical movement control the stress, get you out of the sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response. You have to dissipate those stress chemicals, the cortisol that's out of control, from your stress response. The residual carbon dioxide gets trapped in your lungs because when we're stressed, we hunch forward, we breathe shallow in our chest, we don't take complete breaths like we did in the exercise. So we hold that carbon dioxide in our lungs and it makes us irritable. The point of that is in fight or flight, we're supposed to be fighting against lions and tigers and bears, right? We're defending ourselves or running away. We're in a physical fight stance. We're in a physical state of a boost of energy, blood sugar from the cortisol. We're ready to explode, to defend ourselves or get away from whatever we think is threatening. The problem today is our thoughts, our mind doesn't know the difference between a physical threat or a mental threat. Our thoughts are a threat. How we're judging our circumstances is a threat. And so we go into that physiological defense, fight or flight mode. And so we need, especially in our overstimulating society today, where we're overwhelmed by information, overwhelmed by noise, traffic, urban living, overwhelmed by demands and multitasking, we're generally stuck in fight or flight. And so being irritable and emotionally reactive doesn't really allow us to make the best decisions or live out the best behaviors. So we cannot have an open mind. We cannot be conscious or have peak cognitive function when we're in a stressed fight or flight emotionally reactive state. So we have to do mind-body practice, a mindful practice like what we did in order to shift out of fight or flight, to get out of the amygdala, back of our brain, into our forebrain consciousness, to be present and in control and in the driver's seat. So we use the 5-element control cycle to control an excess element we recognize by our emotions blowing up, right? Pain in our body, feeling that edge of stress, so to speak. So water controls fire. This wisdom and will, your why, controls your faith, inner peace, joy, and fulfillment, controls anxiety. So if we have fear, if we have anxiety, wisdom, exploring knowledge, finding truth, getting to our core values, getting to our will, getting to our why, we can persevere, we can control our ability to recognize and follow our intuition and live in integrity despite any challenges. Water, wisdom, controls anxiety. So that's part of what we're doing today. We're reaching back 8,000 years into the wisdom that people actually died to record and share with us today. That's how valuable this wisdom is. Wood controls earth. Taking action controls overthinking and indecision and worry. So this mental emotional stress can be controlled by doing, taking action. And fire controls metal. So the spiritual development of your joy, gratitude, unconditional love liberates us from being stuck in grief, criticism, bitterness, defensiveness, and closed off towards opportunities to grow. So this is about changing our perspective, building a new neural pathway, building a new worldview that is much more empowering, much more comforting, much more inspiring. We don't have to settle for what we've been shown from society, our family, our previous education. If I had accepted what I was told in 1994 after my car accident, I would be dead as an opioid addict. I would have had to accept that I couldn't do the work that I could anymore, and I couldn't walk. So you can refuse to accept that what you already know is all that there is. That's the point of this group, right? There is more than what you already know. And you can learn and become more than you have ever imagined. That's the starting point. That's how fire controls metal. Our spirit rises up with a new point of view and destroys our limiting beliefs. Earth controls water. So this is the cultivation of knowledge we were just talking about, this introspection, this visionary thinking and planning. This is so important. Most of us are so overcommitted and so busy, we don't take the time to think. We don't take the time to stop. If we all actually rested, took the introspection time equal to the time that we are engaged working or in activities, commitments with other people, wow, the quality of our life, the quality of our performance, the quality of our state of being would be through the roof. That's another thing from the I Ching. I'm going to use my little headphone wire here. This is really super important. Please make a note of this. This alone can change your life. If this string right here, this cord, is representing your finite life force, this lifetime, this is what you have to work with, is the length of this string. That's all we have. And so if we have these very extreme peaks, we will have the same valley. And then this time becomes very short. Because again, this is natural law. We will have an equal valley to the peak. If we wake up to that, then we can work towards greater balance and flow. We don't want to be these extreme lines that shorten our lifespan. We want to be this nice radio wave where we have smaller peaks and smaller valleys and a longer amount of time to evolve, to contribute. And also, I like it, Maharishi calls it, would you rather be in a jalopy with no shocks or in a Cadillac for a ride down the bumpy road of life? I'd rather have a smoother ride. I'd rather take the Cadillac. And that's what mindful practice can do for you. So this cultivation, this time to think, this time to evolve your consciousness is very key, because that's how you create the empowering clarity and purpose that drives your will and resilience in life. That's how you become confident facing challenges and welcome them as opportunities to grow rather than obstacles to avoid or run away from. And then you can make peace with, we will always have a new obstacle, a new change. We will always have this cycle through all these 5 elements. You're not any one of these, you're all 5. And you will cycle through them each and every day. And just because certain of them are a little out of balance, are a little overactive, is not a problem now that you're awake and you know how to control them and you know how to interrupt those patterns, those neural pathways with your mindful practice and start to reprogram. So that's the next step here. That's the point of this group that I love so much. It's not just about listening to this today, this one singular experience. It's about integrating the practices you get from this group into your real daily life. That's what Minutes a Day Master means. So for example, you have this tool now, guided imagery, to take 5 minutes as needed at will throughout your day at any moment to get unstuck, to get present and conscious again, to get in control and in the driver's seat of your life experience. And that also is part of this group too, all of you together. This becomes habit, this changes your life long term. What you want to accomplish here of changing aspects of yourself happens because you hold each other accountable to use the tools that you experience in this group. So this is just one of the tools, 5-element architecture and mindful practice of guided imagery with breath work. You will get many tools, right? Each month you have a talk. The point of it is that to find the tools that work for you and use them confidently with full ownership. So I provided you a handout so that you can go deeper into these tools than we could in this class so far. And then I invite you to contact me as well for more resources and support. So I'm not the creator of this wisdom. I have collected it over the last 15 years. I have a laundry list of books, resources, and tools, and I want you to have them if they're right for you, because I want you to make a lifelong commitment to learning better mental, emotional, physical management tools. I want you to be in control of your life experience. I want you to easily reprogram your neural net. I want you to have the change that you want. I want you to be free. And that is how I can contribute to society, by sharing the tools that work. So I want you to become your own medicine, just as I have done, by discovering new tools and owning them and using them in your daily life at will as needed. That's how you become forever young. When we reprogram our neural pathways, when we create a new neural net, we actually take ourselves back to the brain of 8-year-olds, where all things are possible, where our past doesn't limit us, where we are free and empowered to do whatever it is that we want without fear. That's the point. When you do these mindful practices, such as the meditation we did, for example, I practice transcendental meditation, you will physiologically become younger. I am 46 years old, but my physiology is 15 years younger than that because of my practices. I can do more challenging yoga now than I did 12 years ago. We don't have to become old and less capable. We don't. When you take on these mindful practices, I would love to share research studies of Tai Chi masters. Tai Chi is a moving meditation that creates neuroplasticity. It helps people with dementia improve their memory. And it also makes them physiologically, you can become 14 times stronger than your own body weight. So we can break all of our conventional views of aging. It's in your hands. You have access to these kinds of tools. You can become whatever it is you want. You are not limited. Your pure potential in action. And I want to show you this last thing. This is my orchid, and it's in full bloom right now in the spring. And I think it's such a great metaphor because I wanted you to see my orchid almost died. We moved cross country together in my car. We weren't in the right environment for orchids, right? And it doesn't matter because this is a chance for you to experience reclamation. It doesn't matter your past if you almost died, right? It doesn't matter if you have scars. This branch here is shorter because this branch died and grew back over a year. And now it's blooming again. So I love that you signed on for a year in this group because that's the time it takes for reclamation, for reinvention. Digging in for a year, in a year, you really can really transform your life. So kudos to you guys for showing up for yourselves and doing it every month, every week, every day, every hour. You are making it happen. It's not a trying thing, it's a doing thing, and you're doing it. So thanks for your time. Thanks for doing it. And I guess I'll give it over to Chad as far as what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're gonna go into a sort of open format like we do every week. So anyone who has questions, comments, thoughts they want to share, maybe a personal experience. Before we do that, quickly, if you didn't get the chance, because I know there's some people that are normally on but aren't on this week, and we have some new people, so it's a fluid group in some respects. If you haven't had the chance to do the quiz, I'm going to repost it along with the handout, along with the replay of this video. So for those of you who watch every week, look for that. I'll be doing that tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. So, and anyone on the call who wants to maybe retake the quiz or take it for the first time or read the handout, it'll be there for you to do again as well. But any questions? Paul says, great guided meditation. I really loved it. I'll kick off with a couple just to get, people thinking. I wanted to just comment that for myself, Dr. Renee, I've always been really predisposed to living or being and spending enormous amounts of time near the ocean, near water. And, I think it's because I naturally have a lot of fire in me, and I've always said it cools me down, right? Yep. It kind of chills me out.
It absolutely does, yep.
Yeah, but I never thought of it in the context like you presented it today of the fight or flight sort of, I know what that is, I'm aware of it, but I never considered that we spend the bulk of our time in a fight or flight way of being because of our society, because of what's going on today.
And that's where all sickness comes from, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a constant state of stress. I've taken the last couple weeks off. I haven't drank any coffee as an experiment because I know coffee just puts me right into that, that fight mode.
Spontaneous combustion mode. You could blow.
Yeah. Exactly. So I wanted to kind of just make a comment on that I thought that was really insightful, that we just consider everyone that we live in a society right now that is in a perpetual fight or flight mindset. And is it any wonder that we've got the opioid crisis, that we've got depression, that we've got all this hate and anger that seems to be erupting all around the world? I mean, talk about combustion, right? I mean, people are just there. And I wonder sometimes what it's going to take, for people to wake up to the fact this is not living, this is not even surviving. It's certainly not thriving. And so
each of us waking up, just to iterate a very important point. It's a 10x rule. It's a square root rule. It really only takes 1,800 conscious people transformed, conscious, meditating together to influence billions of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about us being awake together. That radiates out and influences circumstances around us. So when meditators go in a group to a war-torn country in the middle of a war zone, there's 60 to 70% less deaths just from that group being there present. So I just wanted to make that point of how significant it is for you to wake up and be conscious, and the ripple effect it has on an entire society around you. That
we literally can change cities and communities. And so with that, one of the things you said over and over again is how important it is to actually, though, do the work, actually take on the disciplines. What we say is we have this infrastructure that we're working through, which is we're providing opportunities for awareness through information gathering, which leads to new practices, and those practices, when practiced consistently, become disciplines and therefore new ways of being.
Yes.
And so I can't emphasize again, to your point, for everyone listening or here today, the practices make all the difference in the world. There's no shortage of nice thoughts that we can go and spend time listening to, and then go back into destructive practices. That's the $100 billion self-help industry for the most part, not by intention, but that's what it is. It's just nice thoughts.
I want to give some motivation to that too, because there's a sense of power and confidence that you have only from living in integrity. So if you listen to something and you know it's true, you can't unknow it now. So now you own 5-element theory. You're going to look at yourself that way and everybody around you forever. You're never going to unknow it now. It's going to haunt you. It's going to haunt you. And if you ignore that, you're not in integrity. So there's a gap. So we create our own power. We are in charge by the amount of how we live up to our integrity. Do we live what we know? And when you show up for yourself from that point of view, from that place, from that deep place of power, you're showing up for yourself. And there's a confidence in that. So I create my quality of life every day by choice, on purpose. I don't wake up feeling well. I wake up in a lot of pain. I love, there's this point Tony Robbins makes in this interview. Our physical body, we have so many muscles in our face we don't use. Do you have a default pilot frown? Like, what are you doing with your face? It's the same with the posture in fight or flight. How are you breathing? You create your emotional state. You create your state of consciousness. You create your quality of life by how you're using your body, by how you're breathing and how you're using your muscles, your posture. So you just have to wake up to that and realize, oh my God, I have a frown in my face. I'm sure you've seen, I have some relatives, they have a permanent frown on their face. They never smile. It's become their whole state of being, is this dissatisfaction with life. And they've been stuck in it so long that they're resistant to any new ideas to get out of it. So that does not have to be you. Okay? No, it ends right now. Never, never, never going to be you. So you make yourself smile. There's this Thich Nhat Hanh quote I love, is that sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile is the source of your joy. So athletes are taught to smile when they're waiting on the sidelines to get into the game and while they're playing, because it gives them more energy, more power.
Smile, Christina.
Yeah. Yeah. So get used to changing your subconscious facial expressions to a smile, and you will have more energy, and you will have a better mood, and you will start to have a better quality of life. Same with posture. Notice that most of us, computer, cell phone, we're all hunched over. We don't breathe. We have to stop, open up the chest, lean back, and breathe. Because that exhale is letting go. It's a very important part of life. Our emotions are supposed to pass through us to give us messages of what is going on with us. There are clues, there are helpmates, there are tools that something is not congruent. We're out of integrity in some way. Something's not right for us. So we welcome it. It's good, not something to avoid, not to shove down, not to push away. Right. To acknowledge and listen. And then you're in control. You make your quality of life on purpose every day, and no one can take it from you. Not your circumstances, what somebody said. In 5 minutes, you take it back. And so there's a confidence and a power in that. And once you get used to living in that, then that's really this will, this resilience, this power. You own it, and nothing can take it from you. Not a sickness, not a pain, not an accident, not a tragedy, not your past, not circumstances, not the political scene. No, you own your quality of life and your state of being. You take it back in 5 minutes or less, at will, as needed. You are in control. That's the most important thing I can share with you, is to know your power. You are in complete control.
Does anyone have any questions, comments? Maybe you have pain you're dealing with. Maybe there's someone in your family, friends that are dealing with pain or something. It doesn't have to just be about what we talked about today, though I'd like to keep it sort of in that direction. But if you just have a question for Dr. Renee generally as well, this would be a good time to bring it up.
I don't have a question. This is Bill. You know, it's interesting, this conversation and all the conversations we've been having on here. You know, every single time, everything hits home with currently what I'm doing, what I've done in the past, and, you know, what I'm projecting for my own future. But a couple of weeks ago, I gave a presentation to a group of students on leadership to legacy. And one of the things that I brought up is that, you know, when it comes to dreams and accomplishing our dreams, 98% of us fail to ever accomplish that. And we live in a society of about 7.51 billion people. And so that leaves like 2% of us that ever truly accomplish our dreams. But it goes back to what we're talking about right here. You know, all the things they get stuck in this vicious cycle of their comfort zone, right? And interesting enough, about a week ago, I was meeting with a client just at a restaurant in the morning time. And, you know, that was her thing. She's like, I'm stuck. Like, help me get unstuck.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Don't feel bad. You're not the only one. And I kind of gave her those numbers about the 98%. And I said, now look at everyone in this restaurant. Like, you know, I assure you there's, you know, a good portion of these people that are stuck here as well. But I said, you know, just like what you were just talking about, Dr. Renee, I said, look at the looks on their face. And it was the waiters and the manager. I says, not a single one of them is truly smiling until they get right up to us, right? But when they're actually doing their job, just as they're moving around, they're all frown. You can just see the heavy weight on their face and just the negative energy, if you will, that they carry around on a regular basis. And I assure you, like, you know, if you guys go out today, because I do this a lot now, I'm taking in all my own medicine on a daily basis, right? But you can go out, and whether you're walking the streets, whether you go to church or whatever it is that you do the rest of the day, just make an effort to look at people around you. And you'll be able to see where they are in their own lives by just, again, their smile or how they carry themselves, right? And so it's interesting to, you know, years ago, and I think all of us have always heard that terminology that a smile is infectious, right? And it is. It can really change the energy in a room. And at the same time, you know, the person that walks in the room with the negativity could also put a hinder on that room. So we want to do anything we can to like try and change that energy back to where we want it. So anyway, it's just a comment.
Amen to that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Heart Math Institute. It'll blow your mind.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I love that they share is that the magnetic field around our heart is 60 times greater than the one around our brain. So when we go into a room, we are radiating out, I think it's about 100 feet. So same thing, I like to call it, we witness people on the misery train. When a misery train person comes into the room, the dark cloud of misery just blows through, and you feel the hit. You feel the hit in your chest. You're like, whoa, okay. Let's resist and rebel, right? And shoot it out. So yes, your state of being radiates and it affects everything around you, for sure. And if we recognize that, we can catch ourselves. You know, I like to say, we get invitations all the time to get on the misery train. And we can say no. It always looks like it's a free ride, right? Like there's no admission, there's no ticket price to get on the misery train, because you pay on the back end. You pay on the ride, and you pay dearly when you get off, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like 98% of the time we have an opportunity to get on that misery train, right?
Amen.
There's like 98% of those people around us that are just on that misery train. And you know, one of the exciting things that I was talking to with some clients too is like, okay, so there's only 2% of us that actually ever accomplish our dreams, but that goes back to the misery train, accomplishing our dreams, being successful. It's not just about dreams, it's about a lot of other things. And I'm like, and I said, you know what, which part of that fence do you want to be on? Do you want to be a part of that 2% that has an opportunity to change that 2% to possibly 3%? Now, 1% isn't a lot, but 1% of 7.5 billion people is a whole lot of people. So, you know, anything you can do on a daily basis, because typically when I run into people that are on that misery train and that black cloud, Christine knows me well enough. I'm the guy like, hey, how are you guys doing? And they're like, whoa. So just trying to make, you know, and it's, you know, not trying to make a big change, but just trying to get them out of that funk and get them away from spreading that negativity in whatever, you know, arena we're in or situation. So
yeah, we can try to shake them out of it, do a little interruption. But I found too that, you know, sometimes people are so committed to staying on the misery train that there's nothing that you can do to derail that train.
But we can always try, right?
Yeah, and that's our due diligence, and that is also, I find, liberating, because we don't do what's right just to get a response. The response is not even necessary. We are in integrity doing what's right, whether we get the response we want or not. That's very liberating. If the goal of your life is building the quality of your character and the quality of your contribution, it doesn't matter the reaction that you get, really. Your power comes from living in your own integrity.
And that's there's a distinction in that. We're very sort of end focused in our society.
Yep.
Like it's not about the how, it's not about where you're coming from, how you're doing it, or who you're being. It's really just it's sort of, you know, the end justifies the means sort of approach, right? So
yeah.
One of the things that we spend a lot of time doing, and I know Anurag talks a lot about this, is slowing down, because we can get easily caught up in the machinations of our, you know, fight or flight, busy, noisy world. And we can start to, you know, perception is reality. So we can start to believe that what we're perceiving around us is the nature of reality, and we just have to deal with it. Yep. Right? This is the world that, you know, one of the things I find really interesting is when you talk to Europeans and they talk about the need to slow down, to take time. Asia as well, right?
Have siestas.
Yeah, right. And there's this great part in that movie. I'm sure some of you have seen Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah, right? I just thought of that too. And when they're talking to the Italians.
The Italians. And
Yeah,
the
the
Italians are
sweetness
saying,
of doing nothing. You
of
don't
doing nothing,
understand.
right? Exactly. That's where I was just, my head was just seeing, and this is how I know telepathy exists. But anyway, right, that you're just referencing where they say, and the one guy says, you don't know the art of just experiencing and taking pleasure. Like to just slow down and just get outside of that noise and just enjoy for the sake of enjoyment. That's the journey part of it. You know, in North America, we're so focused on the end and doing everything it takes to get to the end, get there as fast as you can, get more, right? There's not like, there's not even consideration of what is even required for our own happiness, because it's not a thought that we're having, you know? We don't need all of this stuff. I'm on an anti-consumption kind of train myself right now. I'm like getting rid of stuff. I don't want more stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to see what life would be like to live lean. And I bet you I'm happier, and I bet you I have
You'll
more
have
energy.
more energy too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it takes energy to maintain all that stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine
inside
if
of
you
the,
put it into something else.
well, yeah. So inside of the architecture and environment conversation we've been having for 2 months, one of the things that has been discussed a few times is looking around at the stuff we acquire, and does it give us life or not? You know, if it doesn't give us life, then it's detracting from our life, and it's weighing us down. So what really gives you life, and what do you need? What supports that life versus what detracts from it is a conversation we've been having as well. But in the side of the consumption culture we live in, as I said, Anurag is going to start a teaching next week, on consuming versus creating. You know, how many of us feel super alive when we're creating? And what you're teaching us this morning is the fact that we can create ourselves and what constitutes our life minute by minute, hour by hour, you know, day by day, versus just consuming what other people are telling us.
And I want to touch on that too, because you said something that's really vitally important as far as the neuroscience research on brain function. Our society is so lost with this resistance to taking any kind of break. It's like this do whatever it takes to the point of exhaustion, to the point of killing yourself. It's not the only way to do things, and actually it's counterproductive, and it makes it harder because you're less functional. So from a research standpoint of neuroscience research, it's really about at least every 2 to 4 hours. When you're engaged in a mental activity, you become fatigued and your brain needs a break. And so you either have to do a mindful practice, or what they're talking about in Eat, Pray, Love, you let your mind wander. You just take a break to think whatever, to just think, or not think at all, to stare. I stare at orchids, I stare out the window, I watch clouds, just drink some tea and just space out. Because if you take those breaks, what you'll find is that you're more clear. You have better mental clarity, more creativity, you're turned on. And you get to maintain this much higher quality of life and capability. And then things are just easier. And from a transcendental meditation, Vedic science point of view from Maharishi, those breaks that we take actually plug us back into our source, back into consciousness, the unified field, the force that is limitless. When we become conscious, we can come up with better solutions to problems, better creative ideas. And they just come. It's easy. If you build that bridge and you stay plugged in and you keep re-accessing it by taking these breaks, everything you do becomes easier. Everything you think of shows up, because now your subconscious and the whole entire force of consciousness, unified field, is working in your favor and you're not in the way of it. You're not fighting it. You're not a wrench in it.
I like having those conversations with people say that I'm really good at multitasking all day long. I multitask all day long. Like, well, you missed the whole day.
Yeah. Yeah. But you
it reminds me of what reminds me of Timothy Leary's turn on, tune in, and drop out.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, so what we're doing here in the being experiment is turning on and tuning in.
Yep.
And my hope is that all of us in some way throughout the course of this year will start dropping out of the stories that society has imposed on us about who you're supposed to be in the world.
Yeah. It reminds me of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because that's what that whole concept is about, is recognizing this indoctrination that we've had from society of all of these perspectives and points of view and all of these beliefs, emotions, and habits that are so counterproductive, that are actually making us miserable. We don't have to accept that. We can get rid of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have only 2 minutes left. So if there's any sort of final thoughts or comments or a quick question, Dr. Renee, I think you're part, like, we invited you into the group. So if they have questions following, they could probably just post it in the group and just tag you in it, right? Through the Facebook group.
Oh yeah, I'm in the group for sure. Yeah.
So that's a way to get a hold of Dr. Renee.
Yeah.
If it's after the fact and you think about something, but any final thoughts or comments or questions from anyone?
Dr. Renee, I did send you a question on, there was one of the slides that said taking actions controls overthinking and a few other things that I missed. So if you get a chance, that'd be great to know what those were. It's in one of the slides, I think, when you're comparing like earth to water and something like that.
Yeah.
There was something in there that I missed. I wanted to catch it. Just said something about taking actions controls overthinking and a few other things. And I wanted to so.
Yeah, that's the wood element controlling the earth. You'll see that in the post-class handout.
Okay.
I did a recap of what that material was, and then I give you a chance to integrate some more information too. Okay. And then any questions from the handout or the class, you can post it in Facebook. But you'll see it again there, the information from that slide too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, basically we overthink and it paralyzes us, and we second guess our choices, so we make no choice, which is a choice. It's just a really bad one. And so even if we're not 100% sure about what to do, it's more important to take a step and do something. It's kind of the core of that point.
Yeah, it's like people who are like, help me get unstuck, Bill, like you were talking about. And the first thing to say to them is just take an action.
Yeah.
Don't think about it.
And that's what's funny, right? Because she was like, because I was kind of letting her know that I was stuck for a long time in something that I was trying to accomplish. And she's like, so just get me unstuck. And kind of what we were talking about, I said, I can't get you unstuck, because even if I could, you're going to miss the journey, right? And that's the most important part of the whole thing, is the experience and the journey along the way. And when it clicks, you're going to look back and be like, wow, that was super impactful. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, you have to do the work. You have to show up for yourself. No one can do the work for you.
Yeah.
You have to fight for it, and you have to own it. And then from that place of full ownership and confidence, you can face anything in life and nothing will stop you anymore. But you have to take that ownership moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, by confronting that fear, that overwhelm, that shutdown, and walking through it anyway. That's courage. You do it anyway. You take action anyway. Regardless of your resources or circumstances, you keep going.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more I want to say on this, but we are at the 90-minute mark today, so I want to respect everyone's time. But Dr. Renee, thank you so much for your time and for your sharing this morning, and for your generosity with your energy. It's very infectious, actually.
Ah, good. And two, don't be shy to ask questions. I want to give it all. Take it and fly.
Yeah, because there's more where that comes from. Remember, we're like faucets, so she can give it away, and this more will fill her up, and it's like all of us. So, well, with that, I want to just dismiss everyone. Thank you for your time. Look for more information and connect with Dr. Renee on Facebook, and enjoy your week. And I'll get the quiz for those who didn't take it. Now you'll have a chance to do that. And the handout with the video replay will all be posted in the next 48 hours. So you can look for that as well. So I appreciate everyone's time, and we'll see you next week.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.